Last week, we were in celebration mode, celebrating 300 episodes of the Declutter Hub podcast. We asked you, our lovely listeners, to ask us your burning decluttering and organizing questions so we can help you out. Last week, we covered part 1 with the first 5 questions. And here we are this week for another 5.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more, or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, hello, Leslie. This is part 2 of 10 decluttering tips you can't live without, because we thought if we all tried to put them in one episode, people will probably switch off listening because we will be here for hours.
I know, yeah, it was a good shout. Ingrid's like, yeah, normally when we answer questions, that would be like 2 hours of content. I'm like, yeah, maybe we need to split it into 2 parts. Very sensible, Ingrid. By the way, we're in episode 301. That means we're now on our way to 400. And by the time we get to episode 400, that means we'll have done 8 years. Do you think we'll still be here in 8 years? Well,
Yes.
in 2 years.
Yes.
Still with stuff to say?
Well, I would hope so.
And we might just get to a stage where we're just talking about our day and not talking about decluttering at all, right?
Do people want to know what we're up to every day?
Do you want me to tell you what we're up to every day? Sitting at this desk, recording podcasts. Clearly, that's what we're doing. Anyway, less about us and more about listener questions. It was exciting last week, right, Ingrid?
Yes, I really enjoyed last week, Leslie, and I'm happy with the 5 questions we are covering today. So let's get started with question number 1. From Anonymous, as well as we agreed, Anonymous, right?
Anonymous has been busy. Anonymous has been very busy.
I have very deep shelves in my wardrobe and all my clothes are constantly in a mess. How do I sort this out?
Good question from Anonymous. Good question. I know how I sort it out.
Oh, tell me.
2 ways. It depends. So first of all, and I think you probably know this from other podcasts that we have done in the past, I favour hanging clothes over folding clothes because I'm not that messy really, but I'm not really sort of driven by attention to detail, and folding is definitely somebody for people who love attending to the detail. So if I have an opportunity, I will hang my clothes rather than fold my clothes. But we don't always have that option. We have to work with the space that we've got. So I've got plenty of hanging space by design and less folding space. Ingrid has got more folding space, probably not by design, to be fair, but she's got more folding space, but she loves a fold, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about how you would do that. So we're not talking about meticulous folding people. If your clothes are constantly in a mess, then that means that you're not being driven by the act of folding, but you need to find a solution to that. And so the way to do that, shelves are notoriously difficult, aren't they, Ingrid? Because you can put things vertically, but you've still got to get things from the bottom and then it makes it all messy. Or you could try and do something sort of, but side by side, or you could try and use shelf dividers. There's loads of different options. But ultimately, for me, it's about containerizing that shelf, and shelves are not very containerized by their nature. So for me, I would find a container that fits that shelf perfectly, that almost, that you can slide it in and out and it takes up more or less the whole space of the shelf. And I would vertically fold or roll into that box so that every time that you need to get something out of it, you can lift the box out of the cupboard, rummage through for what you want and take things out much more easily. That would be and then put it back. That would be the way that I would do it. But Ingrid's going to talk a little bit more about actual folding.
Yes, because I think I think it's especially tricky with deep shelves, right? Because if you've got a shallow shelf, you can actually, when you fold the same and quite nicely, it can look quite nice. The problem is when the shelf is deep and you can have kind of things disappear behind your folded clothes. And that's when you don't see it. And if you don't see it, you don't wear it because you forget that you've got it. So I think that is one of the problems with a deep shelf. And people have all different kinds of wardrobes, walk-in closets. You have what you have. So you need to think about, how can I make it work for me? If you are somebody who likes to fold, I think what's really important, and I think if you fold, you need to fold a little bit neater, because that will make all the difference. So if folding is your go-to, don't just fold quickly, because what happens then is that you don't have the same kind of width of the clothes. The arms are different all the time. And then the piles, when you stack them on top of each other, get wobbly. So that's the trick with folding. It's indeed, yes, if you need to fold because that's the space that you've got, spend a little bit more time. And I'm talking honestly, 5, 10, 15 seconds just to fold it a little bit neater and the same. So I like folding because I don't mind it, but I have to because I've got a lot of shelves and drawers. But I spend about every week 25 minutes on when I fold my laundry. This is not ironing. This is only folding for 4 people. So it's doable, right? It's about 5 loads of laundry every week. Half of it probably, or a third, goes into the ironing pile. The other half gets folded. But I fold everything the same, whether it's the t-shirts all the same, the underwear all the same, the bras all the same, the pajamas all the same, because when it's folded the same, whatever kind of category it is, it will look neater in your drawers and in your shelves. And I think that's the thing.
You'd be so disappointed with my folding.
You
You'd be
know,
so disappointed. Can't even tell you how disappointed. You'd have a disappointed face on. Because I'm just not got that attention to detail. I'm not saying that I can't fold. And actually, when I'm folding for clients, it's actually quite good. But it's just for myself. But 25 minutes of folding just seems like, that's like a lot, compared to just putting things on a hanger and hanging them up.
yeah, I know.
5 minutes to do that.
I know.
Well, we might have a battle. We might have a folding hanging battle. But let me ask you a question about your ironing. So you said that a third of it goes into the ironing and the rest of it gets folded.
Yeah.
What about the ironing that needs folding?
I do that while I iron.
So you do that while you iron. So you iron and then you fold on your ironing board.
Yes, or I iron and hang it on a hanger. So if it's like I like iron t-shirts. That's just me. I like t-shirts being, so when I've ironed them, I immediately fold them exactly the way I would fold them, all the same. And then if it's something that needs to hang, like a shirt or a blouse or a top, like what I'm wearing at the moment, that would be immediately, so I'll bring all loads of empty hangers down from all the different people in this house, and I make sure that everything gets on the right hanger.
Nice. Thank you for the explanation, Ingrid. Okay, it's a good question though.
Yeah.
But mainly the question was really about deep shelves. And for me, the folding needs to happen, but I would fold into a container that you can lift out of your shelf.
Yeah.
That's really the key to making it all happen, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. Let's move on to question number 2. Oh, I feel for this person. I feel for Anonymous. Even though they don't say anything, I know my friends talk about me and my clutter with each other. I'm so proud of what I'm doing, and I'd love to be able to share it with them. So how do I deal with this? So I have a feeling that Anonymous is actually decluttering, but she's kind of doing little steps forward, but she doesn't want to say anything to her friends because they've always been kind of judging her for her messy house. And now she's like, well, I'm actually trying really hard here, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to be getting all these nasty remarks possibly.
It's hard, isn't it?
Oh,
If only we could take other people out of the equation when people in our communities go on a decluttering journey. It can be so damaging, but equally it can be so useful. And so, but mostly at this stage in a decluttering journey, it has been more negative. So people have dealt with judgment and, people talking about them behind the back and the unsaid. Quite often it's unsaid, it's what people don't say, isn't it, as well? So people are talking about. So she says here, even though it might not be a she, might be a he, even though they don't say anything, I know my friends talk about me. And so that's the thing, it's kind of what they're not saying as well. And so you're probably building it up in your mind to be more than it is as well, potentially. So there's a whole load of psychological things going on here, isn't there?
yeah.
But ultimately, you have to tread your own pathway. So what people do, I think it's really important for you to, at this stage, do what's right for you and go, you know what, I don't care what anybody else thinks at this moment in time. I'm going to do this for me. And I'm going to get to a stage where I prove them wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, particularly people, so these are friends, but particularly partners, kids, parents, those kind of people have been like, oh, we've been there a million times and you've said you're on a decluttering journey and you never do it. And you always say you're going to do it and you never stick to it. And, we'll come back when it's actually all done. Or is this just another kind of, another attempt that's going to fail? And it's so demotivating, particularly if you find something, and this is what we find, isn't it, in the people in our communities, if you find something that you feel is going to work for you, so here it would be an emotions-based decluttering methodology, which all of a sudden flips it on its head from where you've been focusing on the stuff before. I think you can really see, do you know what? I think I'm going to get it this time. And all you need is that reinforcement from the people that you care most about to buoy you up. And if that then ends in them doing the complete opposite, it can be quite demotivating. But I think it's important to just go, okay, I'm just going to ignore everybody else. This is important for me and me alone at this moment in time. And I'm going to tread my own pathway. And when I get to a certain stage in my decluttering journey, people will start to notice, because that's what happens, right, Ingrid?
Yeah.
People all of a sudden will start to make those positive comments instead of negative ones, and you'll hear it. People come into your house, oh, have you been tidying up? And it still might feel quite judgmental at that stage, because it's almost looking at, it's almost like when somebody says, oh, have you lost weight? And all you're thinking in your mind is, geez, they must think I'm fat, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And so they intend it to be a nice statement, but it kind of becomes negative just because they're referring to what came before. It's so hard. So you could either do that, which is tread your own pathway, or the other option is to kind of appeal to their kindness and say, look, I know that I've done this lots of times before. I know that perhaps it's failed before, or I've failed, or whatever. We don't like to use the word failure, but in principle, that's how you will feel about it. But actually, this time I really think that it's going to be different, and I could really use your support in this. Or that's another way of going down it. And only the people. This is about people, and people are complex beasts. And so we can't sit here and say, do this or do that. I think it's about knowing the people that you're interacting with and knowing how they might react to either a request for help or for you to kind of ignore and tread your own pathway, and you will know which is best. What do you think, Ingrid?
Yeah, I think, and it's sometimes not even only comments, Leslie. I think it's also just the eyes, or the rolling of the eyes, or the look that goes to the other part of the room that you maybe have not done yet. You know what I mean? Or just really kind of not kind of, oh, if you tidied up, but kind of like, oh, yeah. And it's like, wow, okay, I thought you were coming here from me and not from my house, but never mind, because people can be very harsh, don't they? So I think it's really important that sometimes you also just have to be, quite kind of go, I'm just not going to listen to that and let it just run past me. But it's hard because it really cuts to the core and it cuts into your heart, doesn't it? If your friends are already saying that, I mean, how do you deal with that? And I think it's really important, if you decide you want some help from your friends, if you want their support, be clear what it is that you want that support to be. Because if you say, you know what, I found, I don't know, the Declutter membership, I'm loving it, I'm changing my ways, I'm changing my mindset, I'm doing a little bit of decluttering here and there, and I absolutely love it, and I would love your support and I love your help. Be clear what that help is, because help can be different things to different people, right? Because your friends who might be super organized think will go, okay, well, we're going to help you sort out this room. And you're like, whoa, I just wanted to ask you if you know a good place where I can donate items or something, or do you know a nice charity that we can support? Or so help is a different thing for everybody else. So be clear what it is you want support with. Is it just, oh my gosh, let me know the next time you've done something and I'm going to treat you for a coffee in the local Costa or Starbucks or something. You know what I mean? Or let's do a movie night. Let's go to the cinema, or let's do a movie night at my house when you've done your living room, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be necessarily something that is stuff based, but it can more, that kind of support as well to treat yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other thing I think that's important, Ingrid, is sometimes when you feel like, sometimes you can feel as well like you're the only person in the world who has got this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why being in a community of people who get it, like in our Declutter Hub Facebook group, 40 odd thousand people in there, all so supportive because they all completely get it. So there's an empathy there that is just very, very motivating, because all of a sudden, when you realize that you're not on your own and there are other people who feel in this way, and other people who can go look at a picture of your messy, in inverted commas, room before, and then see how much change you've made and go, that's amazing progress, and see the progress in that. It's so motivating. So if your own sort of circle of friends are not giving you that motivation and support that you need, reach out to a community like the Declutter Hub Facebook group and share your photos and share your wins and ask for help, because those are your people, aren't they? That completely get it. We're always completely blown away by the kindness that there is in that group. And it is because, and we've got a lot of people in there now, so this could go horribly wrong. Once you start to widen the net a little bit, it could go wrong, but still, we're quite fierce about only allowing people in who are kind and show kindness in there. And so it's just so important to find a community of people who understand the journey that you're going on.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think if you are realizing that you can't find it with your friends, you've tried either not telling them and just plodding on your own, or ask for a bit of support, and nobody's really kind of doing that for you, say, okay, I've tried. My friends are up at the moment, they're not the people for me. That doesn't mean they cannot be helpful in other ways, or you can't hang out with them anymore. But maybe for the whole decluttering, you need a Facebook group, our membership, just to kind of give you that boost and that support and that motivation, that accountability to move forwards. And maybe later, when you've got less clutter in your house, you feel more on top of things, then you can kind of go back to your friends and go, hey guys, this is what I've been doing. I've been doing it on my own. I've had some wonderful help in other areas, because I just didn't feel that I could share this with you, but I'm really proud of what I'm doing now, and hopefully you see the difference as well.
Definitely. It's a really, really good question, and one that will resonate with so many people when you've been at the receiving end of hurtful comments. It's a tough thing to get past, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know what, Leslie? Sorting a house, decluttering, organizing, sorting, tidying, cleaning a house is a big job.
Yeah.
And the more clutter you have, the harder that job is. So I can completely imagine that a lot of people are like, you know what, I actually really need less stuff, because it will change so many things around me as well. So yes, I hope that's helpful. And thank you so much for submitting this question. Let's do another one before we go to a break. somebody sent in and says, I get so much mail about hospital and health appointments and things that I need to keep to refer back to. How do I organize this all? Because the paperwork is absolutely just insane, basically.
It is insane, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think it's a completely bespoke system to you and your health conditions is the answer to that. So
Yeah.
whereas there are many people, lucky people, who will have one file folder that says health on it, if you've got multiple things that you're dealing with, then it's really important to have separate categories for each of those things, and depending on how much of a problem it is and whether it's long term, whether it's going to be with you for life, whether it's a short term issue is going to dictate what you keep and what you need to keep going forwards. But for me, I think it's mapping out, okay, where am I in my life and what am I kind of having appointments for? And then you do need to do like a bit of a kind of mind map almost, don't you, Ingrid, on like, how is this going to work? Because I think you've really got to think about what your categories are, Ingrid, right? And so you might have one, you might resonate with cardiology, you might resonate with heart, or you might resonate with Dr. Smith. Yeah. And so you need to work out what makes logical sense for you based on the way that your mind works and what life is throwing at you at the moment. And some people have got 10 or 15 different doctors that they're seeing for different things. There might be different cardiology doctors, so you might want to split that, subcategorize that. So it's really important for you to think about what your categories are. That's the most important part of it, and know that you need more than just health, right?
Yeah.
Then I think after that, you need to start looking at the types of information that's coming through and going, what do I actually need to keep long term? So, and we the NHS here in the UK, amazing, but send out so much administration that would, whatever, we can't go into the NHS now, but there's so many things that it's all a bit crazy, isn't it? So every time there's a letter for a hospital appointment, you will get instructions, very important instructions and directions on how to get to the place that you need to go to in these mammoth hospitals. But you don't need to keep that long term. You might not need to keep that at all if you're confident to go online and find it, if you want to go to the help desk or whatever, or you've been there before. But these are the kinds of things. But because when our health is compromised, we get a little bit more panicky or anxious about things. And so we want to hold on to things. So it's really about looking at those things and going, what do I need to keep long term? It might be that you need to keep that appointment letter as it's happening, but then you might be happy to let it go once that appointment has gone. Or you might decide, actually, I want to keep a chronology of all of the appointments that I've had so that I can refer back to it. Particularly if you're nervous about whether or not the administrative body that sits behind your doctors are doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
And so, and that's going to depend on you. I'm a little bit more throw caution to the wind. I am a little bit more risk. I'm like, it'll be fine. I'll find the information from somewhere. But some people want it to be much more documented, right? For obvious reasons, maybe if you've been fallen short before, or there's many, many reasons. So it's about working out what do you need to keep. But the one thing that you do need to think about is that you don't need to keep everything. Ingrid, what do you think about health paperwork?
I completely agree. I think, we all start off quite simple, right? With just doctors and dentists and possibly eyes or ears, immunizations. But the older we get, the more complex normally things get because, we get things and some paperwork is also painful and hard. And, especially if there's been fertility problems can be very hard, to keep that paperwork, but sometimes you want to keep it. Although it is hard to keep it, there's a lot of emotion that sits behind paperwork, but especially health paperwork, because normally when you have to go to the hospital or the doctors or whatever, that's, something is not right. And that can really shake your whole life just up and down. And it's very an uncertain time in your life. So it's it can be very hard to kind of, especially in the beginning, see the wood for the trees and what information do I need and what's happening here. I can't even get my head around that I've got this illness now. So let alone dealing with all the paperwork. But I think it's really important to stay on top of it, especially, with so many people now needing to go to hospital, and we're all getting much older than we were before. So we have to really be organized about it, because if we're not, you can really kind of go off track. And I've seen it with several of my clients who've got a lot of health paperwork, and it's really like a part-time job, staying on top of all the appointments and all the paperwork. So you actually have to be almost super organized, just to make sure that you don't miss anything and that you don't lose anything. But like agree with what Leslie says, the envelopes can go, all the explanations of the maps of the hospital and all the frequently asked questions and all the other things they send you every time. Filter that out immediately and only keep the appointment letter or the reference letter or the report from the appointment, and then make sure you indeed categorize that in the different suggestions that Leslie said.
I think it's also important to recognise that things are more complex elsewhere in the world. We have a fantastic NHS system, which is free. Not that we can't have access to private health, because we can have insurance here, but most places in the world, there's the health side of it, and then there's the insurance side of it as well. So you need to work out how you're going to split that down. So you're going to keep the insurance documentation with your actual health information, or you're going to separate those out to be completely different. So as we said, it's really... what I found, particularly when I've worked with clients with multiple health needs, it's almost like a completely separate system in its own right, isn't it? In a completely separate place. And I think also the last thing that I wanted to say about this as well is that quite often people who are going for appointments on a regular basis have a little folder of the most important bits of health documentation to take with them to appointments as well, just in case that information is not on some computer or whatever when you get there. So you might want to splinter some of it out into kind of very current stuff that you might need to take with you to appointments. We could go on for a long time about health paperwork. The one thing that I would say is it's so important if you've got multiple health needs to get this part of your life right, because it just causes so much more anxiety if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hope that is helpful. And yes, let's go for a break, because we've got 2 more questions after the break. So see you soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back for your last 2 questions in this podcast. We have gotten another lovely question for you. And it says, I'm confused about when I need to do my daily resets that you talk about all the time. All my time is focused on decluttering, but when do I fit in those daily resets?
I know. Good question.
Yes.
It's a great question.
So first of all, Leslie, I think we need to explain what a daily reset is briefly before we kind of explain how you fit it in, because people might be here for the first time and go, a daily reset? I've got no idea. So basically what Leslie and I say, it's nice that you declutter your house and that you're organized and to get it all done and over time. But daily, you need to do a little bit of tidying up and organizing, because if you don't do something every day, then you fall back to a chaos again. So you need to stay on top of things. So once you, for example, have decluttered your kitchen, it's really good to daily make sure you do the washing up or load and unload the dishwasher. It's really good to regularly empty your recycling and your bins in your kitchen. You don't want to leave it until it all piles up and spills over. You probably daily want, or maybe several times per day, wipe your kitchen counters and your kitchen table if you've been having breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. You probably daily want to kind of give your cooker or your hob a quick wipe over. Because if you do these little jobs that take a couple of minutes every day, it stays much tidier. So when you've done all the hard work in the decluttering, you have to do something daily to kind of keep it ticking over. And then over the weekend, you normally do a little bit more. You might also mop the floors and do extra bits and bobs. So everybody's daily resets are different, right, Leslie?
Yes, absolutely. But I think it's important to recognize that it's not only once you've done the decluttering that you do the resets. Okay. So in answer to the question, how do you fit it in? I'm spending all my time decluttering. I'm not doing the resets. You've still got to do that. So all of the things that Ingrid's mentioned, washing up, all that, taking the recycling out, that needs to be done regardless of where you are on your decluttering journey. The nice thing is, as you start to do more decluttering, the daily resets will get so much easier.
Yeah.
But you can't leave the resets until after your job is done. The reality is that you will have been doing those things. You've been doing some kind of reset every day, every week, whatever that looks like already. And so, but when we talk about resets, we obviously talk about fine tuning it a little bit more and really drilling down. But sometimes if you're faced with clutter all over your work surfaces, you're like, well, I'm not even going to bother wiping because I can't even get to the work surfaces sort of scenario. But you do need to do some basics as you're going along. So basically, in terms of where it fits in the same way, regardless of where you're on your decluttering journey. But as you progress, you might want to build more into your daily resets as you get more comfortable with it, as more space opens up and things like that. Exactly the same in your bedroom. We're big advocates of making your bed, smoothing your bed, throwing your bed back, whatever that might be for you in terms of your bed, and opening the window, opening the curtains, putting stuff in the laundry every day. And that needs to happen even if your bedroom is in complete chaos. There still needs to be some sort of delineation between the laundry, the clothes that are dirty and the clothes that are clean. And so it's important to do that as you go on. But the nice thing is, as you continue down your decluttering journey, you're really going to love the results of those daily resets so much more, because it feels like you're not getting anywhere with your daily reset when there's still lots of clutter around. But as the clutter starts to dissipate, then all of a sudden the fruits of your labor start to unfold, right, Ingrid?
I think it's a game changer. And I think that's what we see in our membership as well. And we have a whole course about doing daily resets and what they are and when you do them and why you do them and what your non-negotiables are and all of those things. And I think the members who really take on board that watch the daily resets course and do them every day. And yes, occasionally there's a crazy busy day they can't do it, and then later they think, I didn't do my daily reset and I regret that now. And it shows me how important those daily resets are. But it's a game changer, and the daily resets honestly get easier. We hear it all the time. In the beginning, they're hard because it's just not something that you're used to. It's creating a habit of doing certain tasks every day at a certain time. You just build it in around your schedule. And I think once you do that, and once you then do that in combination with decluttering, so you start to declutter your kitchen cupboards, for example, and suddenly the stuff that's in the dishwasher doesn't end up on the work surface, but can be put back in the cupboards, what we want. Suddenly that wiping of that kitchen side is much easier and only takes 2 minutes instead of picking things up and, oh gosh, it's quite dirty behind there and I need to move it and all. You make your future self so much happier. But it's definitely a combination of things. But indeed, whether you're decluttering or not, your daily resets still have to be done. I mean, at some point, clothes need to go into the washing machine, need to be hung up and dried and put back somewhere. Your bins need to be emptied at some point, So, but we just say, do all of these things a little bit more in a pattern, a little bit more in a routine, a little bit more as a habit, because it will really help you with feeling more in control and feeling more organized.
Yes, absolutely.
Game changer. Game changer. All right. Well, Leslie, let's go to the last question that we're going to answer. And it is, do you think a gift cupboard is a good idea?
Sometimes. We're getting put on the spot here, put on the spot. I'm nervous about the gift cupboard because that sounds like a lot, right?
Yes.
Doesn't it? A gift cupboard seems like a lot of space to give over for gifts. So I think, the listener who sent this question in, and for people who are like, what's a gift cupboard? So basically, if you love to see things as you are shopping and think, oh, that would be a great gift for someone, or that's a bargain, let me buy it and then I can use that at Christmas to give somebody or whatever. What we see in the normal world and in the decluttering world is that there's an overabundance of that kind of gift buying in advance, which leads to clutter sometimes, because because we like stuff and we see kind of purpose in stuff all the time. And there's always, oh, that would be a great gift. That would be great. So what we try and encourage further down the line, as people start to change their clutter mindset, is that if you do, and there's no problem with that because you can get bargains, you can pre-plan in advance, particularly good for like children's birthday parties and stuff like that. Ultimately, we typically buy gifts for people. I mean, we'd love people to buy experiences more than actual tangible objects, to be fair, most of the time, but that's not always possible. You need to buy gifts as a matter of course. And so whether you buy them in advance or on the day or last minute is kind of up to you. But it's important that any purchase that you made is fully intentional. You need to have an inventory. So you need to have a full idea of what you've already got at home, number one, because people just buy and buy and buy. And we find them in those deep shelves in the back of wardrobes that we were talking about, don't we, Ingrid? And then they're like, oh, I forgot that I bought that, because you just squirrel it away. And if it's a gift and you don't want somebody in the family to see it, you hide it away and then it never comes out for 3 years. And so there are big downsides to a gift cupboard, but there are upsides too.
Yes. I think if you are a person who's got gifts scattered everywhere, a gift cupboard is a really good idea, because then it gives you visibility of what you have. You can kind of, but you need to find a place somewhere where you can put it all, right? So, I mean, I think worked with a client once, and she had like a cupboard in a spare bedroom that was a bit small. And we were like, okay, that's like a good gift cupboard. So we put all of the things that we found everywhere in that gift cupboard. And she's like, oh, wow. And exactly what you said, I completely forgot I had this and blah, 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 blah. So then later we looked at those same gifts again. And first it was more of a gathering exercise, but later it was more like, do I really want to give these gifts to people still? Because I bought them 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, with the intention of it might be a good gift for somebody. And she actually realized that half of the stuff was actually something that she now in this moment would not gift anymore. So we actually donated a lot of those items, and she's an amazing gift giver. So I think it really kind of almost opened her eyes a bit, like, okay, hold on a minute. I need to shop far more with precision and not just pick something up because it looks nice or is a good deal or might come in handy one day or something like that, because then it's money that it's lost. So, and I think, of course, I agree with you. I used to have a shelf where I kind of put, because especially when the kids were small, you got lots of birthday parties and they get invited all the time to parties. Then it was really handy. At this moment, I do not at all have a gift shelf anymore because, first of all, I've really cut down on the gifts that I give. I rather give experiences or go out or do a meal with somebody or anything like that. And I find that, after being a professional organizer for so long and seeing so much clutter everywhere, I'm like, I don't want to have gifts. I'd rather do something else. So, and I feel I'm not always the best gift giver anyway. So I just feel the gifts is just not my thing. And we've really eradicated it in my family as well. So with Christmas, we rather all do something together than give each other gifts and try to think of stuff that nobody wants to have. So, and maybe for some people that sounds really mean, but I'm like, I don't know, it just works for me. So absolutely fine with that. So I don't even have a gift shelf anymore. But for a time, it was really, really handy. But now for me, I'm like, no, don't want to have that in my house.
Yeah, so I think, but if you are a person that's got a gift cupboard or got gifts scattered, like Ingrid says, I think you've got to come up with a plan. So first of all, you need to gather like with like, know what you've got, and then really analyze it and go, who am I going to give this to and when? And it might get down to that if you've got a birthday calendar or if you've got something in your digital calendar for someone's birthday, that you make a note and go, present already bought for that person. This is what it is. You might need to go down to that granular level of detail, but you need to make a real commitment to yourself. Same with cards. People are always buying cards for people as well. Oh, that's a nice card. That's a nice card. When are you going to actually give this card? It's so, so important to take it to the next step. And how am I going to make that happen to make sure that over the course of this year, those gifts are depleting in my gift cupboard stock.
Yeah.
And the same with the cards. And so it's a really good question. And it is a problem in a lot of people's homes because we are shopping, oh, that might be good for a gift, as opposed to that will be good in May for Auntie Jean. That's where we need to get to.
Yeah, I think it's, and you touched upon cards there, Leslie. I think that's so true. I mean, we have the stationery and notebook and card lovers that can't pass a shop with a lovely birthday card set and are like, oh yeah, I'll pick that up, and I picked it up. And honestly, not even 5 or 10s, but hundreds of cards. And it's like, you've had this now for so long, it's nearly now crumbled and damaged because you've had it so long in your house. And, of course it makes sense if you're in the shop to get a couple for the things, but you don't want to have cards for the next 5 or 10 years because they're expensive. And it's a lot of money that's just sitting there as well that might then be not useful. So yes, but tempting, so tempting to do this. But yeah, we hope that was helpful.
Yes. Ingrid, we're at the end of our part 2.
Yes, this was all the 5 questions, Leslie. I've enjoyed talking about all these things. And did you?
I know. When do we not enjoy talking about decluttering? You can see the kind of energy coming up out of us when we're answering questions. And I think it's really nice to be able to answer questions that people have submitted themselves as well. It's something that we do every 2 weeks in our membership, and we go even deeper sometimes than we have done today on those. Absolutely love answering any questions that people have got, because we, that's what it's all about. We want to, break through these barriers that happen where we're like, oh, I don't really know what to do about that. You know what I mean? And so it's important to hear it from the horse's mouth, think a little bit as well. So I've loved it, yes. And it was a nice celebration of our 300th episode.
I know, 300 and 301, Leslie. We're, like you said, we're on a roll now to 400 in another 2 years. So listeners, let us know, did you enjoy this this kind of session where we answer questions? And if it is, maybe you've got a question you would love us to answer, or maybe you're like, actually, do you do this every 2 weeks in your membership? That sounds awesome. I'm going to come into the membership, and I want some Leslie and Ingrid advice every other week, and not just after 300 episodes on the podcast. I want to ask them questions all the time because we love it, and we do give advice.
We do give advice on the podcast in other weeks as well.
I know, but not listener questions, Leslie.
But do we just say things that people don't want to hear normally?
Well, I hope not. Let us know, listeners. Is it still helpful?
Yeah, no, don't let us know. Don't let us know, because we might throw the towel in at 3:01.
Yeah.
Never come back.
You might say, no, done now. You can stop 300 episodes in. We've had enough.
Exactly.
Anyway, honestly, we appreciate each and every one of you who's listening every week. Tell other people about this amazing podcast. Leave us a review. Send us an email. Join our membership. Come into our Facebook group. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.